I am so glad to see so many students have enrolled for our Module 2 in your Professional Diploma in Graphic Design. Welcome back to each and everyone. Let's make the most of Module 2. Have you ever realized that when printing there's no white ink? Let that sink in a bit. Why haven't you even considered printing with white ink? Well, if you can remember from Lesson 7 in Module 1, you will recall that when it comes to printing, we print with the subtractive color model that consists of CMYK. This abbreviation stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, and then also black. When combined, these colors form black. So technically, these colors can't form white. Also, considering that paper is white, it would not make sense to have white ink. However, we do get the occasional project that entails white print because our printing surface is not always white and it is not always on paper. In this lesson, I will explain the technique of printing with white, gold and other colors that can't be mixed using the CMYK color model. And guess what? Print is not dead. We have amazing printing techniques to our disposal that will blow your mind. By the way, you probably realized that we have two black cartridges on this image at the bottom. The cartridge on the left being inserted is mostly used for black in photographs, and the cartridge next to yellow is mostly used for text and sharp, crisp elements like fine lines. This specific black cartridge also has the ability to dry very quickly. PGBK stands for page or pigmented black in this case. For motivation, I would like to leave you with the following quote. The expert in anything was once a beginner. Think about a task that you are really good in. For how long have you been doing this? Remind yourself that we all need to start somewhere, so don't be too hard on yourself. I don't think there's anyone who does not know by now how to access your lessons. How else did you get here in the first place? Remember that you are more than welcome to rewatch your lessons to recap on anything you feel you might have missed. Morpheus, as well as your classmates, are always there to assist if needed. Otherwise, drop me an email at support@shawacademy.com and remember to rate Morpheus's responses. He won't get offended if you don't like his responses. You have passed Module 1 and have now made it to Module 2. Well done. We still have 2 modules after this before you obtain your Professional Diploma in Graphic Design. So for the next 4 weeks, we will focus on the intermediate skills needed to become a successful graphic designer. Don't by any means think that you still have a long way to go. You will be able to obtain your Professional Diploma in Graphic Design in a matter of 4 months. It will take commitment and discipline, but then again, anything in life worth having does not simply fall on one's lap. I have tried to summarize what we will learn in Module 2 because it is jam-packed with content and practical sessions to get you equipped in using the holy trinity of graphic design. This is Illustrator, Photoshop as well as InDesign. So week 1, lesson 1, which we will do today, is about advanced color theory and some important printing terms that you will need to familiarize yourself with. Lesson 2 later this week is about creating a mood board and why it is such a handy tool. We will go over to a practical demo and learn to create a mood board in all 3 programs that you have learnt in Module 1. Lesson 3 entails the advanced anatomy of typography, and I will leave you with the challenging yet rewarding exercise, designing only with type. I'm sure most of you are wondering when you will learn the pen tool. Well, lesson 4 is where we will learn the infamous pen tool in Illustrator. The trick to understanding the pen tool is practice and more practice. It's the same as learning how to ride a bicycle or learning how to swim. Take heart that as soon as you can work with a pen tool, you will never unlearn it. Lesson 5 is about mastering the pen tool. The pen tool is probably one of the tools you will make use of the most, especially in Illustrator. So it is a good idea to put a lot of focus on it. Once you can work with the pen tool in Illustrator, you should be able to master it in Photoshop as well as InDesign. In lesson 6, we will move back to Photoshop and create a magazine cover. Everything we do from Lesson 6 onwards will form part of a magazine we will finalize in Lesson 8. Exciting times! Lesson 7 is the creation of an advertisement using more amazing Photoshop tools and tricks. And in Lesson 8, we will create a magazine with our already created cover and advert using InDesign. I'm sure that if you've gotten this far, you have access to all 3 programs we will learn in this course, Illustrator, Photoshop as well as InDesign. If you are in the business to make money from this course, I would suggest you invest in a decent computer and software. Our first lesson for Module 2 will entail quite a bit of theory, but it is at least very interesting. As of Lesson 2, we will get to the practical side of things, which I'm really excited about. Just as you thought you know all there is to know about working with color, you get introduced to it yet again. Color helps to create impact, it organizes and evokes emotion, and what better way than to understand how to work with color in order to communicate your intended message. Color has such an impact that by simply changing the color of a clothing item or car, for example, it will put us off of that specific item. However, color might evoke a different emotion in you than it does in the person next to you, especially considering that we have different reactions to color due to cultural, associational, or personal preferences. By simply changing the hue, value, or saturation of a color, that too can create a different mood or evoke different feelings. This lesson is all about working with color and understanding the emotional impact it has on society. Also note that this is a guide to understanding basic color psychology and that the context around color and even the surrounding colors can also have a different effect. I would like to do a brief recap on the color wheel we did in our previous module. So by simply dividing the color wheel in half between yellow and purple, we can determine that the colors on our left have a warm undertone and the colors on our right have a cool undertone. What type of emotion do warm colors mostly convey? Well, on the positive spectrum, we have comfort, love and warmth. But these colors can also convey a sense of hostility, aggression and anger. Cool colors can convey a sense of calmness and peace, but also sadness and depression. So understanding when and how to use colors in graphic design is extremely important. Let's have a look at these colors individually by starting with the color red. Red, being a primary color, can convey an array of feelings ranging from love and passion to danger and even anger. Understanding the use of color in different cultures is also an important topic to consider. Red in some Eastern cultures symbolizes good fortune and prosperity, and it is worn by brides on their wedding day. Red can also symbolize revolution and political movements. When it comes to branding, however, red symbolizes strength, confidence and power. Red in design terms can be used as an accent color, but when used in its purest form, it can be quite overwhelming, and by simply changing the value and saturation of red, it can be quite versatile as well. Since orange is a combination of red and yellow, it will take on the properties of both. In branding, orange represents a youthfulness and excitement. It is associated with brands that symbolize enthusiasm and are energizing. In nature, a downtoned orange can also symbolize the change in seasons, from autumn to winter. Learn to see the cues color convey in nature and culture and apply that to your design. Nature barely gets it wrong. Yellow conveys emotions of happiness, laughter, warmth, optimism, energizing. It is attention-grabbing. It makes you feel hungry, frustrated, or even angry. It can also resemble deceit. Bright yellows normally lend towards laughter and energy. Light yellows are calm and portray a sense of happiness. Dark yellows like mustard can create the illusion of gold and resemble royalty. However, combining yellow with, say, a white background can be visually disturbing. In branding, yellow is known to grab your audience attention and should therefore be used sparingly. The good news in design, however, is that by simply adjusting the color's brightness or saturation, you will be able to make use of it in more ways than you think. Moving over to our cool colors, green is a combination of blue and yellow. It will thus take on some of the attributes of both yellow and blue. Brighter greens tend to be more vibrant and energizing, whereas darker greens tend to be more stable. In branding, green gives a sense of health and also wealth. It can also resemble nature and is often seen in eco-friendly designs. Blue is the only primary color within the cool spectrum. Our cool colors, if you can recall from Module 1, are also more subdued than our warmer colors. Hence, in order for a cool color to stand out when combined with a warm color, you will need to alter the value and saturation of the warm color. Blue has the ability to lower blood pressure and is thus useful to create a calm atmosphere and a relaxing environment. Blue is also a very corporate color, and you will see that a lot of companies make use of blue in their branding. Altering the shades of blue can thus then even evoke a different emotion. Have you ever wondered where the saying "feeling blue" comes from? If you're not familiar with the saying, to refer to yourself or someone as feeling blue means that you or that specific person are sad. This term derived from a custom amongst sailors where if the ship lost its captain during a voyage, she would fly blue flags for that entire journey until returning to her home port. When it comes to branding, blue is one of the most widely used colors and usually communicates wisdom, loyalty and truth. A dark blue is normally used in a very corporate sense since it communicates a sense of professionalism as well as success. Purple, being a combination of red and blue, gives a sense of royalty and luxury, especially darker purples. Lighter purples tend to resemble creativity and imagination. Purple can communicate a sense of luxury, it is sophisticated and creates mystery. Purple also connects to wisdom and spirituality. Neutrals are mostly used as a backdrop in design and are normally combined with brighter accent colors. Neutrals aid in creating sophistication and are very much affected by the colors around them. In most cultures, black symbolizes death and a sense of mourning. In design, however, it links to elegance and sophistication. Black is also generally used for body copy as well as typography. White let other colors have more impact and also creates a sense of sophistication. Depending on the backdrop color, but in design, a white logo is rarely seen. You will however find black logos to be converted to white if the background is a dark color, in order to create contrast, of course. White is also a color that is used in the healthcare industry and symbolizes cleanliness, purity as well as innocence. Grey is probably my favorite color, if I can call it a color, to use in designs. As with white and black, when it comes to grey in designs, it is normally used as a secondary option, especially with logos and branding. It is, however, sometimes used as the primary color in branding. Mixing shades of grey also creates a timeless, practical approach, and when it comes to printing, grayscale is normally very cost effective since you are only making use of one color to print. Some additional terms we will be making use of a lot, especially when working with the design programs, are hue, value and saturation. Hue refers to the actual color you will be using. Example, green or blue or yellow. Hues are basically pure colors. Value, which is also known as brightness, refers to how light or dark a color is, by simply adding either white or black. Saturation refers to the intensity of a color, with similar saturation values tend to work well together. Think of it in terms of removing color and adding more grey. Eventually, you will get 100% pure grey when all the color is removed. Color modes are quite fascinating in that there is more than meets the eye, literally. Referring to Lesson 1, you were introduced to the two main color models, RGB and CMYK. Other color models you will be familiarized with in this lesson are HSB and lab color models. A color model is a system for creating a full range of colors from our primary colors. We have additive as well as subtractive color models. Additive color models uses light to display colors, and subtractive color models uses paint or inks. So RGB is an additive color model since combining all these colors will form white light, and CMY or CMYK is a subtractive color model since combining all these colors produces black. The HSB or HSV color model is the abbreviation for hue, saturation or brightness or value. You can access this color model on any of the 3 design programs we have learnt in this course by simply double-clicking on the color palette in your toolbar on the left. The lab color models was introduced by Richard Herter, American color scientist in the 1940s. But it was only defined by the International Commissions of Illumination back in 1976. It expresses color at 3 values. L, which is for lightness from black to white, A, from green to red, and B, from blue to yellow. The lab color space includes all the colors of the spectrum, even colors outside of our human perception. This is thus the most accurate means of representing color of all the color models. It is, however, not the most commonly used, and colors are normally converted to color models like RGB or CMYK, since computers and printers use either 3 or 4 colors to represent images. In other words, if we can't even see all these colors of the spectrum, why bother trying to represent them? Next on our color picker, we have RGB as well as CMYK, which you're familiar with by now. The last color model at the bottom refers to web-safe colors and are referred to in hex values. We will get to this topic and designing for web at a later stage. The Pantone color matching system is a color space used in graphic design, printing and other industries including fashion, product design and manufacturing. This color space was created by Pantone, situated in New Jersey. The Pantone color space is used to print spot colors, whereas CMYK is used to print processed colors. So what is the difference? Spot colors are solid inks assigned by a code that aids printers in making sure that the colors are printed accurately. CMYK colors are combined to create a specific color. In short, a spot color is a pre-mixed ink of a specified color, and the CMYK color model uses inks that get mixed during the printing process. So for example, the BP green is coded Pantone 355, and the BP yellow is coded Pantone 109. The Cadbury purple is Pantone 2685. Spot colors come in handy, especially in logos where colors need to be extremely accurate. If you zoom in on a printed document, you can sometimes determine whether the color is a spot color or a process color. By considering what you have just learned, which color do you think is a spot and which is a processed color? The color on the left is the spot color, as you can see that it is printed with one single green color. And the color on the right is a mixture of cyan, magenta, yellow and black, where cyan and yellow makes up almost 100% of the color, and 12% magenta as well as only 2% black. When zooming out, you can barely see the difference, but with a trained eye, you will soon realize when a color is a spot or a processed color. You can actually test this out. Next time when you look at a printed item, in extreme close-up, use a magnifying glass if need be. Determine where spot colors and where processed colors are visible. I think the best example would be to look at a cereal box or magazine cover, as not all printed items combine both processed and spot colors. A tip I can give you: like with raster images that consist of millions of pixels and a variety of different colored squares, so does processed color also work. So any printed element that has an array of colors is most likely not a spot color, but a processed color printed using a halftone screen. Pixels and dots are, however, not the same thing. The brief difference between PPI and DPI is that PPI is used for digital images and DPI is used for printing images. So a lot of people get confused with these two terms and use them interchangeably. This is wrong and please don't do it. Getting all technical, we can say that 300 PPI is equal to roughly 762 dots per inch, and 118.11 PPI is equivalent to 300 dots per inch. But don't let this confuse you at the moment. It is just important to note that DPI and PPI are not the same thing and are used interchangeably by many in the wrong way. Just stick to what you've learnt in Module 1. Save your images at 300 PPI when printing and 72 PPI for digital purposes. So on the right hand side we have a low resolution digital image, and on the left hand side we have a low quality halftone image. The dots are clearly visible here. You can see lower quality halftone processed images clearly in newspapers, as the quality of printing for newspapers is not as high. On another note, halftone is simply a term used to break down a processed image into an array of colored dots in different sizes, like you can see on the image on the left hand side. On the left, you can see tiny dots of color, which we refer to as halftone in the printing industry. These tiny dots are a sure sign of a processed image, and processed images are measured in dots per inch. DPI refers to the number of printed dots within 1 inch of an image. Going back to our spot colors, which we determined is a pre-mixed color, this then answers our question on how to print with white ink. Thinking about it, it is impossible to print white ink combining the CMYK color model. Well, if we can premix a color of ink, why not get a white spot color? Or a gold spot color, or even a neon pink spot color? Technically speaking, these colors can't be created using CMYK. So spot colors, and specifically using Pantone spot colors, come in quite handy when we need to print colors outside of the CMYK color model as well. The only downfall is that it can become quite expensive when you add an additional color to your already standard 4 colors. So next time you have a client wanting any other color that can't be mixed with the standard CMYK color model, prepare them to pay a lot. Speaking of printing colors, this brings me to my next topic. If you are ever privileged enough to possess a Pantone color swatch, call yourself lucky. Or if you feel like spending some money by spoiling a designer friend, buy them a Pantone color swatch or book. They will love you for it. A Pantone color swatch, or we sometimes refer to it as a book, is a small booklet containing all the different Pantone colors available. It's like buying your fashion-forward friend Louboutin stilettos. I would like to show you how to access these Pantone colors when working with the design programs we are using. The first program I've opened up is Adobe Illustrator. You can simply go to your color palette here on the left and double-click your color. It will open up the color picker for you, and you can click on color swatches. It generally lists a variety of CMYK colors. You can choose from on the right-hand panel, or you can select from on the left-hand panel. But still, where do I get my Pantone colors? So Illustrator is a bit tricky. You need to go to your swatches on the right-hand side. If it's not available here, you can simply go to Window and scroll down and select Swatches. Click on the 3 arrows and locate Open Swatch Library and go over to Color Books. Let me repeat that again. So I click to open up my swatches panel, click on the 3 lines here, open Swatch Library, Color Books, and we will have different color models here. I'm not going to go into too much detail on what coated and uncoated is at the moment. It's just it depends on the type of paper you use. So coated will be a coated paper and uncoated will be an uncoated paper. So we actually use different Pantone models depending on the type of paper you also use. And I'm going to simply click on Pantone Solid Coated. it will automatically open up all the Pantone colors available. So if you work with a company and they want you to work in a specific color, they can give you the Pantone code. So let's say they prefer the color for their logo to be 323. You can simply search 323 here and it will identify and bring up the color that you need to use. I'm going to repeat quickly just so you remember. So we have our swatches panel activated. Click 3 arrows, open swatch library, color books, and depending on what type of Pantone color you're going to be using. I mostly use solid coated because the paper I print on is normally coated. You click there and you simply type the code of the Pantone color. I'm going to move over to Photoshop now. And in Photoshop, it's slightly easier. You can simply double click on the color panel on the left. It's going to bring out the color picker. You're going to go to color libraries, give it some time to load, and it will automatically load the Pantone solid coated book for you. You can scroll up or down and select the color that you are looking for. As easy as that. Then moving over to InDesign, you're going to go to the top, either your fill or stroke, doesn't matter. I'm going to create a new swatch or a new color because we don't really work with color as much in Illustrator. It's a layout based program, so most of your elements will be already designed. You're going to double click on the newly created color. And remember we spoke about process and spot colors. You can change between that there. Your color mode, Pantone solid coated. Give it some time to load. You can search for your color as well. And you have all your Pantone colors available here. Remember that you can simply rewatch this lesson if you forget or want to recap on how to activate your Pantone spot colors in Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop and InDesign. I will now look into the main printing processes. Note that I will briefly touch on the main printing processes and not go into too much detail. If printing really interests you, I would suggest to go visit your local repro house or printing company and see how they operate. This is actually really fascinating. This lesson will also put things into perspective for you as to why printing is so expensive. Sometimes the ink itself can be more expensive than gold per gram. So double checking your artwork before printing is crucial. The printing processes I will be explaining in this lesson are laser printing and inkjet printing, also known as digital printing, offset lithography, screen printing as well as letterpress. We will also look at other terms including die cutting, embossing, varnishing and foiling. Digital printing refers to the process of where the artwork is sent directly to the printer in a digital format like a PDF, TIFF or JPEG file. An example would be your inkjet or laserjet printer at home or work. We also get high-end digital printers as well, but think in terms of the printer you are familiar with at work. It works exactly the same. You can simply click print on your computer and send it to the printer. A great example would be like when you simply want to print 50 business cards for a client. The advantages of digital printing are that this technique is very affordable and it offers a very high quality. Its print run is very fast and you can also print other colors other than the standard CMYK color model. This will obviously entail high-end digital printing machines and not your basic standard printer you find at home or at the office. Offset lithography is a printing method used for mostly mass production. The term offset is used since the actual printing surface does not come into direct contact with the printing plate. Usually 4 plates, even though you can add an additional plate for spot colors depending on the size of the printer, in the standard CMYK colors are created. 1 per color and the printed images are lasered onto these plates. If you look at the image I have here, let me get my mouse cursor, you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4 and also a 5th section for that 5th spot color. So the first 4 is for cyan, magenta, yellow and black and the last one is for my additional spot color. Lithography is based on the principle of oil and water do not mix. The plate goes through a process where the non-printed areas are covered with water and the printed areas are covered in an oil-based ink that then gets transferred to rollers that in return transfer the ink onto the printed surface. Offset lithography is great for mass production. It provides consistent high-quality prints. It is relatively cost-effective and it can also be used for shorter print runs. Screen printing entails the process of stretching a piece of silk, known as the screen, over a wooden frame. The image is then transferred to the printing surface and can be used multiple times. Screen printing is long-lasting and produces vibrant colors. You can print on a variety of materials ranging from t-shirts to paper to caps, whatever you can think of. Screen printing would probably be able to print on that. You are also not limited to a specific ink type. It is cost effective but takes quite a lot of time to set up. So it would not be worth it to print only 1 or 2 pieces of artwork. Letterpress uses a raised impression, almost like as a stamp of your design to print onto the paper. You can actually feel the print. These raised images can also be reused. Letterpress is used for wedding stationery, greeting cards, menus, as well as business cards. Letterpress creates a unique, beautiful effect to your designs. However, it is a tedious process that is also very expensive. The following terms relate to effects that can be added after the printing process mostly. Die cutting is the process of using a die, which is like a stamp that cuts a cardboard or paper into the desired shape. This is mostly used for packaging, cutting the shape of the actual package and to create a sophisticated effect on other printed material like business cards and flyers. This is an expensive process, so care needs to be given. Embossing works similar to letterpressing but is normally added after the printing process. It simply means to raise certain elements on the printed surface to create a three-dimensional look and feel. A varnish or a spot varnish is added to create a gloss or matte overlay on parts of your design. You can think of it as a transparent spot color. And lastly, foiling is simply adding a gold, silver or any other shiny metallic color or foil on top of your design. All these techniques mentioned are quite expensive, so be sure to get comparative quotes beforehand. This was lesson 1 of module 2 done and dusted. For our next lesson, we will focus on mood boards. Mood boards are a great way to convey your ideas and concepts to your client before commencing with the actual project. This usually happens in the brainstorming phase of your design cycle, and we will look at the process of creating a mood board in our next lesson. A mood board contains all the concepts and ideas you would like to add to your final design and is a great way of convincing your client. To recap, we have looked at advanced color theory today, specifically referring to color psychology. We have also looked at all the other color models we get. I ended off with some of the main printing terminology and techniques. Has all of this made a bit more sense to you? You can download your summary notes and webinar slides from your toolkit to recap on this lesson. I'm sure these will come in very handy. The long and short of all of this is to simply ask your printer if you are unsure about anything. Printing is not a cheap process, and messing up in your pre-run is not a nice feeling. Ask me because this has happened to me before. This was your very first lesson of your second module. Remember to drop me a message if you have any questions. You know where to find me. As always, thanks for joining and I'll see you at lesson 2.